game. Where's Johnny? You're gonna need a big approach. Why so serious? Roll out. I am Iron Man. This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Chasing the Gold. I am In Session Film Awards editor Shadan Larkey, here with a special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, my name is Jacob. I am a writer, sometimes podcaster here at In Session, and yeah, I'm happy to be on here. Happy to be talking to you again. And again, I can't say it enough, but I appreciate everything that you do for the awards team at In Session Film. I think you do a lot of work. A lot of times it goes unnoticed, so just wanted to give you your props for all that you do as well.
Well, thank you, and thank you for podcasting with me. Hopefully, you'll be a more frequent podcaster for us at In Session Film. So Jacob and I did a podcast discussing the craft, sort of a first look. We should mention we're recording this at the end of September, so this is sort of a post-festival first look at what the Oscar race looks like. And today we're going to be diving into sort of the above-the-line categories. Before we get started, Jacob, what are your thoughts on how this race is shaping up? What are you sort of questioning? What stood out to you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so if anyone didn't listen to the last show, I put Frankenstein in a lot of spaces for a movie that I didn't have really high up on my best picture list. Not saying that I moved it up to like the 5th or higher spot, but after talking last time, I feel maybe a little bit more confident about it getting in. But other than that, I think I mentioned it at the end of the episode. I think there's a lot of competition this year, and I think there's going to be a lot of competition throughout the season. I don't think we're going to have the gargantuan sweepers that we've had in the past couple seasons. Whether it be Hamnet taking awards here and there, or One Battle taking awards here and there, or even Sinners, or maybe Jay Kelly takes some top prizes here and there. And so I think there's going to be a lot of really strong competition through all the categories, which is great because I enjoyed the winners last year. I was a fan of pretty much all of the winners. But I mean, last year was one of the most predictable years in, maybe the last 15 years, where it's like, it really, like, the difference in how your Oscar pool was going to go was who got the shorts right. And so, I think this is going to be a year of potentially, different winners, different films getting wins. I don't think it's going to be as set as years in the past have been, which I think is exciting.
I hope so. Actually, that makes me feel very hopeful because I feel like right now I am predicting a little bit of a sweep, but I'm like, maybe you've given me some hope. I think, yeah, there's some big titles we still need to see. We haven't seen Marty Scream. We haven't seen Jay Kelly. We haven't seen the Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. So there's still some things that could come in and surprise us. I think we talked about this a little bit in our crafts episode. There's a lot of international features that are not just in contention for the International Feature Prize, but in contention for acting prizes, crafts prizes, screenplay, director. How many are going to get in? How many are going to get in where? I mentioned this, but if our Best Picture sweeper traditionally wins 7 Oscars, if that's going to be one battle after another, how many is it going to win? Is it even going to, maybe it caps out at like 5 or 6. I think right now I have it winning like 7. I don't know if that's too high. We also have a lot of people who've already won Oscars potentially coming. I mean, we talked about this with our composers, with our cinematographers, like, like costume design, right? Like, are they going to be more open to first time winners, or are they going to be ready to crown some repeats? I don't know. I think those are going to be some big narratives, sort of like the overdue narrative, or, that's sort of shaping up for the season.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like, there's a couple, and I definitely have a couple of overdue wins and nominations. We mentioned Johnny Greenwood the last time being potentially an overdue composer, but there aren't as many. There's not as many, Leos in The Revenant this year as there have been in the past, and so it should be interesting to see kind of which of these actors, which of these directors, well, the directing category, that's different, and that's kind of, it's kind of obvious who the overdue there is. But other than that, there's not many, true overdue, lifetime achievement wins that there has been recently. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who makes it, who misses, who gets those wins, and who falls short.
Well, I'm excited to dig into it. Let's start with our new category at the Oscars this year, which is Best Casting, a category that they've sort of been, casting directors have been fighting for a long time and advocating for, and it's finally here. And I mentioned this in my TIFF recap, Jacob, but one thing I found really interesting at TIFF was that the directors were constantly shouting out their casting directors. Like, they know this is a new category. They know this is a new way to, like, up their Oscar totals, and they're really pushing it. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what makes the cut for the first time. So being that you are our guest here, I'll let you start off. What do you have in contention for the Best Casting category?
This one, of course, being so new, there's no history to base it off of. So, we don't know. When we talked in the editing category, we talked about how, most editing recently equals good editing. And we don't know kind of what it'll be this year. Will the most casting be the best casting, or is it going to be, the best cast role? So I am playing this one very safe, in my opinion. And my top 5 is what I think is probably, you will find out, but it's probably some of the top 5 contenders for Best Picture. But I've got One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sinners, Sentimental Value, and Jay Kelly rounding out my top 5, with Marty Supreme right behind, and then Wicked for Good, and Wake Up Dead Man following that.
Okay, you've given me. Okay, I'm surprised. So BAFTA has a best casting category, and traditionally that has correlated with the film that they end up giving best film to. So I sort of use that as my bellwether of, like, I think casting is going to tie closely to Best Picture. So spoiler alert, I have that going to One Battle After Another. And looking at the cast of One Battle After Another, you have everything. You've got your stars and Sean Penn and Leo. You've got Chase Infinity, The Big Discovery. You've got, you can argue, Teyana Taylor as well. You've got sort of these, like, Paul Thomas Anderson regulars that he's brought back, people that he worked with 20 years ago. You have the whole Christmas Brigade that is so interesting, and like, kind of this question, you're like watching this film going, where did he even find these people? Like, it just seems like a really well thought out cast. Regina Hall, I mean, it's just, I do think it's one of the best casts films of the year in general, but yeah, I think the safe bet for now is to go with One Battle After Another. In number 2, I have Sinners, just because I feel like there's a lot of discoveries in that cast. Miles Carlton, and it is such a big, sort of sprawling cast. So I have that as my number 2. But Hamnet, I mean, when I saw that film at TIFF before One Battle After Another, my first instinct was like, this is the kind of film that the casting prize is sort of made for, because it's like, that cast is so well utilized. I mean, the child actors, Jacoby Jupe, he's incredible. So I could see Hamnet like taking this. I have Wicked for Good. That's probably I'm overestimating it, but I just think you have sort of the stars. You have a lot of strong supporting players. It's sort of based on such an iconic property, so sort of recasting those roles is something that I think could be really interesting for voters to take a look at. I have Marty Supreme in at number 5, but I think Frankenstein again could be a really strong contender here because it's just really well cast. You have a lot of character actors, a really sprawling cast, a lot of really interesting choices for like who they picked to play certain things. I have Jay Kelly in. I have, again, I mentioned in the last Crafts episode, like The Testament of Anne Lee. If it's coming out, could also be a contender here because you have this whole cast of characters that come in and play this sort of religious group, and they all have their moments, right? I think that's one thing that's really important to mention about casting is like how well utilized is your cast, and I think that The Testament of Anne Lee does a really good job. I have Wake Up Dead Man in here. I do think Wake Up Dead Man like does not utilize the cast particularly well, especially of the 3 films. But if we're looking at like a most casting type of a situation, then definitely Wake Up Dead Man is a major contender. And at this point, everyone in Hollywood has been in one of the 3 films, so maybe that could be like a here you go type of a thing. And then I have Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, which like we talked about this with The Crafts. Like that movie could be everywhere and that movie could be nowhere. Like Deliver Me From Nowhere. Like that could movie. That could just flop. I don't know. But those are sort of my casting contenders for now.
Yeah, my thing is if this category was in last year, I think Wicked is absolutely in, but I'm curious to see if because technically yes, they had to cast all the roles, but they're roles that they're continuous roles, and so I wonder if they're going to separate Wicked 1 from Wicked 2, or if they do end up nominating it, if it's going to be kind of a layover of, well, we couldn't nominate
right.
We couldn't nominate Ariana Grande as Glinda or Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba the first time, so we're going to nominate them in these roles the second time. And so that I'm really curious about. Going to something like One Battle After Another, I think one of the reasons that has a good shot, especially over something like, say, Jay Kelly, is both Paul Thomas Anderson and Noah Baumbach, they love working within their group. And One Battle After Another, you kind of see Paul Thomas Anderson veer way off of the people that he usually likes to work with. The Joaquin Phoenixes, I mean, he kept, Sean Penn he works with all the time, but it's for the most part, it's a whole new cast for him. So I think that's going to be a benefit to him, even though, every time you see a Jay Kelly trailer, it lists all 50 names of people that make an appearance in the movie. They're people that work with Noah Baumbach pretty regularly. And so I still think it's going to get nominated for this has the most cast type of movie, but I don't know if it's going to end up getting the win. I have Sinners in as well as my number 3. Hamnet, like you said earlier, as my number 2. I think what that could come down to is, how well do people perceive Paul Mescal as Shakespeare? Because I think that's going to be a big kind of signifier of did they do a good job or not. And all points seem to say that they did. So I've got it at my number 2 right now, and then yeah, I've got sentimental value at my number 4. I still think it's a pretty strong Best Picture contender, and as you said earlier, I think this category is going to probably lump in well with some of the films that are going to do pretty well in the Best Picture category.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I mean we'll get to Paul Mescal. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Let's do international feature film. This is like, I'm telling you, Jacob, I'm obsessed with all the international films this year. I can't remember the last time there were like so many, and they're just like, I would put most of these in the Best Picture category based on what I've seen so far. Like I would put most of these in the Best Picture category. So I have sentimental value winning. I feel like that's pretty safe, even if it wins nothing else. I just feel like it's such a good. It's just, I love that. It's phenomenal, and it's one of those movies that I've been looking forward to for so long. I love The Worst Person in the World. It's one of my favorite movies. So like the hype that I had for sentimental value cannot be overstated, and it met all my expectations. I really love that film. So I have it winning. I have It Was Just an Accident from France, the Jafar Panahi film. Won the Palme d'Or, so that seems like a strong enough kind of bellwether, and he just has such a strong narrative himself. I think the film is very strong. And yeah, so number 3, I have The Secret Agent from Brazil. Number 4, I have No Other Choice, the Park Chan-wook film. I'm pretty, like, honestly, Jacob, solid on those 4. I think the 5th slot is kind of where things potentially open up. Right now, I have Sound of Falling from Germany, but I'm very tempted to put in The Voice of Hin Rajab from Tunisia. That one, I'm kicking myself because I wasn't able to see it at TIFF, but I've just heard it's the kind of film, like, you can't get it out of your head. It doesn't have a distributor yet, but there's just so much passion behind that film. So I think it's a really strong contender to get in. I have Surat from Spain at my number 6 slot right now, or number 7, I should say, because I'm moving The Voice of Hin Rajab to number 6. I have Left-Handed Girl from Taiwan. That's another one that keeps coming up over and over again. I have 2,000 Meters to Andrikia from Ukraine. It's a documentary, but we've seen some crossover between docs and international features. And then right now I have Palestine 36 from Palestine in my number 10 slot. I could easily see that carrying through. One other film, President's Cake from Iraq, that I've heard of. It's like this little kid and he has to make a cake for Saddam Hussein. So it's like very political, but like a little bit whimsical. So that could be just a contender, a film to look out for, if nothing else. But yeah, this is such a strong category and relatively locked in. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I have the same top 4, but the more I look at it, the scarier it looks, because who's the distributor for every single one of those? It's all Neon. So it's like, are they really going to give 4 of the 5 slots in this category to Neon alone? And who knows? I have The Voice of Hin Rajab at number 5. Maybe Neon will come by and buy that one up too, and just take all 5 slots. But I also have sentimental value at number 1. I have No Other Choice at number 2. I think it'll do the best of all of the international features not named sentimental value at the awards, and so I feel like for that fact I have to put it at number 2. And I really think, even in, it's like I was saying for a lot of the below the lines, and what I said earlier in this one, I think there's so much competition. I think we've been touting sentimental value as like this behemoth that won't be stopped. Who knows? I mean, Park Chan-wook is one of the most beloved directors working, and who knows if a film that he made really starts to take off and win some of these awards and maybe get the best international feature. I also have It Was Just an Accident, The Secret Agent, and of course the voice of Haim Rajab as my number 5. Followed up by The Sound of Falling, Surat, and Left-Handed Girl.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Neon having the top 4 contenders. What do you think, if we were to have a surprise on Oscar morning, because sometimes that happens, right? Like the big contender doesn't.
It happened last
what
year.
do you think is going to be the thing that could potentially miss? Right. Yeah.
I actually hate to say it, but I think the most likely one to miss is going to be No Other Choice. And I think it comes down to, again, that for some reason, Park Chan-wook movies don't do well at the awards. None of them. And granted, maybe something like Old Boy was too weird and out there for the Oscars at the time. But even Decision to Leave, which, was basically a Vertigo remake, even that missed. And that one was very well beloved, very well seen, made it into a lot of different categories at a lot of different awards, and that one still missed. And so I think if there was one surprise, even though I have No Other Choice at my number 2 and as a real threat to take the win from sentimental value, I still think it could wind up being the one to miss, just based on the history of how Park Chan-wook movies have done at the Oscars. And so then you get something, like The Sound of Falling moves up, or Left-Handed Girl, or something, along those lines. I almost said Surat, but then we got the same problem where that's Neon as well. So, so yeah, so then you start getting stuff like that.
I think both No Other Choice and The Secret Agent are maybe I don't want to say divisive, but I could see a world where you're like, okay, I really like Wagner and Mora, but the movie itself doesn't necessarily come together. Same thing with No Other. I mean, my problem with No Other Choice was it just felt so long, and was a little bit too tonally all over the place. But then people really love it. I don't know. So I could see, yeah. Yeah, I definitely could see a world where No Other Choice misses, or maybe The Secret. I don't know. It's hard because I feel like all of these films have such strong narratives behind them. I was saying, well, maybe It Was Just an Accident falls off completely, but then I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah, it's tricky. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if things kind of fall the way we think they're going to fall. Which, speaking of which, Jacob, best animated film. Also tricky because I feel like I have 3 things that I feel confident about, and then the rest I just had to list films that came out this year. That's basically my approach.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm the same way.
All right, so give me your list.
And of course this is one of my favorite categories. I am very happy to hang my hat on that. Last year I was on the Flow train pretty early, saying that it could be not only a contender for the nomination, but I thought pretty early on that it could end up winning, and then of course it did. But it's weird because it seems like the past couple of years we've had a set film that was going to win. Something like K-pop Demon Hunters, something like The Wild Robot, something like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And then it seems just at the 11th hour, something else comes along and takes it away. And whether it be, Boy and the Heron, Flow. This year, it seems like we're still kind of waiting for that 11th hour. But at this point last year, everybody had seen Flow. Nobody knew that what Flow was going to end up becoming, but everybody had seen it and everybody knew what it was. And so it's hard for me to really go away from K-pop Demon Hunters at this moment. Um, it's Sony. It's got that same kind of Spider-Verse type of filmmaking. It's Netflix. Netflix has done well in this category, especially over the past couple of years. It's just, I don't know how well it will end up hanging up. But I also don't know what could overtake it. I've got Arco in at number 2. I've got Ninja 2 as my number 3, and then Zootopia 2 at 4, and Elio at 5. And Elio was such a film that came and went, and it was what it was. But I really, I can't really think of much outside of that. I mean, Little Amelie, the G Kids film, I've got it my number 6. Maybe that could start making a push later on. But it's we're almost in October, and this is still such an unknown category outside of K-pop Demon Hunters, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, tell me about keeping in Ninja too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but that film also did not do what people thought it was going to do, and kind of came and went.
I think there's going to
or
be,
it did internationally well, but not well stateside, right? Like they thought it was going to be.
I think the international branch, I think in this category specifically, is really starting to take their claim. And we've technically, I know The Boy and the Heron isn't I know it wasn't listed as an international, it didn't make the international categories like Flow did, but it still was an international film. And then Flow ended up not only getting that international nom over something like Kneecap, which did insanely well at the BAFTAs, and then Flow got the surprise nom that no one saw coming. I think the international branch of the animated category is much stronger than what we might have thought. And so while Ninja 2 might not have done well domestically, I do think it's going to, I mean, it made over $2 billion, which is truly insane. And so I think it's got the international love, it's got the money. A24 is backing it. So you've got, a known studio that's won and that, continues to put out films to try to win. And so I think, I have it at my number 3 right now. I could end up moving it up to my number 2. But it's also to K-pop Demon Hunters' point, is that while K-pop Demon Hunters is, an American-based film, it still encompasses a worldwide phenomenon of, K-pop.
Right.
So, I still have Ninja 2 in, just because, again, even if it didn't do well domestically, which I don't have the numbers. Yeah, I mean, it did 23 million domestic and then 1.8 million international, which is insane, especially from an animated film. So so I still think it's going to have enough behind it to get it that nomination. So that's why I kind of kept it in my 5 at this point.
Okay, well, I don't have Ninja 2 in my 10, but now I'm like, I made a mistake, so I'm gonna put it somewhere in my 10. But I think the 11th hour film that could kind of take everything away from K-pop Demon Hunters is Arco. I did get a chance to see it at TIFF. I think it's beautiful. I think it's sweet. It does have sort of Natalie Portman behind it as a producer. Like
Mhm.
the sort of criticism I've heard about it is like, we've maybe like it reminds you of other things. It reminds you a little bit of Miyazaki. It reminds you a little bit of like was it Robot Dreams, because it's the same sort of style of animation, I guess. But like it's really good, and I could see a world where people see K-pop Demon Hunters and they're like, this is just too, I don't know, poppy or kid or like not enough depth.
It is a movie that even when watching it, I was like, this is still like very obviously for kids.
Right. I think, and listen, I liked K-pop Demon Hunters just fine. My little cousin is obsessed with it. She's seen it 500 times, so she like forced me to watch it with her. And I just feel like it kind of lacked a little bit of depth, which again, it's for kids. That's fine. The point is the songs. The point is the colors. Like I totally get it. Okay. But I just wonder, like, if we're looking at the Oscars, are they going to go for something like an Arco that has like a little bit more of like just depth and like feeling, I guess. Like I think K-pop Demon Hunters left me feeling a little bit cold. Or like I didn't really feel anything. I was like, okay, the songs are good. Like I don't know. But again, it's like I don't want my personal opinion to influence me here. So I have Arco at number 2. But all of this to say, like I do see a world where it's gonna end up winning. But the thing is like Netflix doesn't really have, especially when you look at picture, like the acting races, like it doesn't really have a huge, like very many big horses as they have in the past. There's no like Power of the Dog. There's no Irishman for them this year, right? So like if animated could be one of their big categories, like I could really see them like going all out for K-pop Demon Hunters. So we shall see. I have Zootopia 2, Little Amelie, and then like some just other names that I heard that I threw in the mix. Scarlet, In Your Dreams, Demon Slayer, The Twits, Fixed, and Elio. Although I just don't think Elio is gonna happen. But yeah, are there anything, just because you as you mentioned, like you follow this race closely, and I remember like reading your articles last year, like you were the one that put a lot of titles like on my radar. Like what are you, I guess, like most looking forward to, or like what stands out as like a potential contender that you have that none of us have seen, obviously?
I think the thing with Elio is that Pixar hasn't had, not only have they not had a winner since Soul in 2020, I don't think they've had a nominated film in at least the past 2 years, which is insane from a studio that won, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but won like 11 of the first 20 no, not even 20, yeah, 11 of the first 20 like animated feature went like in general. And then Disney as well hasn't done well recently. So that's to me, that's why something like K-pop Demon Hunters, while it feels safe because it's the biggest and most well known, it also is just like, it doesn't feel like how the recent winners have felt. Ever since really Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, it seems like there has been such a push for the craft of animated feature.
Right. They've all elevated, right? They've all felt like they like an artistic sort of approach to animation for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which the whole season he talked about animation as film, and that was his major selling point. And then you've got something like both Across the Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron were both these massive artistic game-changing films. But of course, Miyazaki won out, which again is another testament to, I think, the international appeal has more than what we think. But then you see, especially something like last year, where The Wild Robot, very good. I love that movie. Very emotionally deep. Tells a really good story. It feels like from 2002 to 2020, it would have won in any single one of those years. However, you have something like Flow, which changed the game. He talked about it was an unknown director. He took 3 years to make it. It was made on a free software called Blender. It was all about kind of the craft of making an animated movie and how you could make something worthwhile out of so little and by saying absolutely nothing. I mean, there's no dialogue in the movie in general. Um, and how I think Flow to me, it's one of my favorite ones ever, but Flow to me, I think, is the power of animated storytelling
Mhm.
through the visuals. And so while K-pop Demon Hunters, I think is very popular, to me, it doesn't feel like a movie. It's like you said, like I liked it, I enjoyed watching it, but it doesn't feel like even it doesn't feel like a Soul. It doesn't feel like an Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It doesn't feel like a Boy in the Hair, and it doesn't feel like a Flow. It doesn't even feel like an Encanto. And so it's like, how is this film going to fall into this category that is changing so much so rapidly? Um, that's kind of like I have it first just out of because what else am I going to put first at this point? Um, but that's why getting the win to me still seems kind of difficult in a way, just because it doesn't feel like this is what this branch goes for anymore. Um, and so
I don't know,
outside of
Jacob,
that,
because Arco has, I feel like all of these things, like it has the more international appeal, it has the more artistic. Like, should I just be brave and switch? I don't know.
I know I'm not gonna do it now just because I haven't seen Arco. I was so lucky to see Flow like months in advance. Um, but it could be something to where if you change it to Arco, I think you would be probably making the right move. I want to change it to Arco. It's just out of the past few years, K-pop Demon Hunters feels more like K-pop Demon Hunters feels more like a Disney movie that would have won in the early 2010s. It feels like that kind of feel good, fun kids movie that the voters put on with their kids. The kids see it feels like Frozen in a way.
Mhm.
It has the big song. It has that kind of like kid appeal. There's nothing too deep to really have to get into um that kids voters with their kids are going to have to watch. But after a movie like Flow wins the Oscar, a movie that I was in the theater and people took their kids, but like they're not like there's no dialogue. Like I think it's and not only that, it's like the animation style. I love the movie, so no one listening think I'm hating on it, but it looks like a PlayStation cutaway scene, and so it's like, but it still was able to elicit like genuine tears from me. It was able to like
Mhm.
really like affect me in such a powerful way that it's just like going from something as emotional as Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio to go into something as emotional um as Boy and the Heron, then Flow, and then going to K-pop Demon Hunters, in my opinion, would feel like a regression in a way to an animated feature category of the 2010s and before, not continuing this trend that we've seen recently. So Arco is probably the right move to move up to one. Um, but I just haven't seen it. I haven't even seen the trailer for it. So I just can't personally. But I do think I might make a change and put Little Amelie into my 5 over Elio. It's weird not having Pixar in it for so long, but I don't know. That movie was such a come and go type of thing. Um, that
Isn't
I
it crazy
don't think
though?
anything's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
It's such a question of timing because I feel like if The Wild Robot, for example, had come out this year, like it would have just
Oh, well,
done,
easy.
finished. Like it, yeah. It's like it's almost sad in a way because it's like, man, like if things would have just aligned a little bit differently. But I'm gonna switch to Arco. I'm just gonna do it because honestly, I just that's gonna be my big breaking news of this episode so far.
Yeah.
Switching you I don't know I feel like everything yeah, but let's go to best adapted screenplay, which I'm taking a big risk here too, Jacob. So I have One Battle After Another winning this. It just seems like, it's such a layered screenplay. It accomplishes so much. There's so much depth. Like, talk about depth. There's so much detail, little things that come back. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant screenplay. I think it deserves to win. And I think it's gonna win. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is gonna walk away with multiple Oscars next year, and this is one of them. I have Hamnet in at number 2. It's Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell. I mean, there's a lot of interesting changes made from the book, which is so that's kind of something going for it. I think it's a strong number 2. It could win here easily. A brilliant screenplay. I have Begonia. I'm underestimating Begonia, I think, majorly, but I think this is, I think Yorgos is going to get in here. I think he's just so popular, like people, and I think if Begonia, even if Begonia like doesn't become a crafts thing, because you have it like way more in the crafts than I do. Like even if it doesn't do well, I think he could still get in here. Like I just feel like this is a little bit of a weaker year, I hate to say, for adapted screenplay, and he feels very safe to me. I have no other choice. I think, again, even though I don't necessarily like, it wasn't the biggest hit for me personally, I think that screenplay is so good. It accomplishes a lot. Again, like One Battle After Another, balances a bunch of different tones. Not as well as that film does, but it still feels like an achievement. And if they are sort of ready to come around to Park Chan-wook, I think No Other Choice is a good bet here. I have Train Dreams, which is my big swing, but I really love that film so much. It's from the same people that did oh my god, why am I
Sing Sing.
blanking? And it was my Sing Sing, my favorite movie of last year that I can't think of on the fly apparently. But it's from the same team that did Sing Sing, so they have a lot of goodwill. That they've been to the Oscars already. I could see them coming back. If Netflix, like, please mount a campaign for this movie. Like you don't have much else to do this year. Like Train Dreams just seems obvious to me that it could really get in here and do well if they tried hard enough. Then on the outside looking in, I have Frankenstein. I don't think it's a good adaptation of the book necessarily, but I think the Del Toro of it all is enough to make it a major contender here. I have Deliver Me From Nowhere, Wake Up Dead Man, just because it's Ryan Johnson. He could come in. I don't feel confident about that, but he has to be in the mix, I'm assuming. And then Wicked for Good. And lastly, I have Is This Thing On, which I haven't seen, but it's Bradley Cooper, and the Oscars love Bradley Cooper, so you have to imagine a world where he's in the top 10.
Yeah. For me, I'm also taking a swing here in that I mentioned it in the below the line categories, but I think this race is going to come down to Hamnet and One Battle After Another. And I think this is where Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell kind of take one away from Paul Thomas Anderson. Strictly for the fact of we've seen it multiple times over the past couple of years. It's why I was very early in on predicting that Dune 1 would get a nomination and not Dune 2. But when Unadaptable starts getting thrown around and is pulled off, I think that really goes a long way. And including Maggie O'Farrell here is going to be a way to where you're like, well, I can award her for not only the movie that she wrote, but the book that she wrote as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and also with Paul Thomas Anderson, I know that the movie, it's basically an original script. And I wonder how much that's going to go into it as well, of people in this category who, maybe some of the people in this category want to read the books and see how well they adapted the book into the film. And while changes were definitely made in Hamnet, One Battle After Another is almost entirely a brand new script with inspired by on the ledger. So that's why I think Hamnet's going to take over this category for right now. I do have Ryan Johnson in at my number 3. I think I wrote an article about this on In Session Film. It would be a historical nomination because, I mean, no film franchise has ever gotten 3 nominations in total. So it would be the first time that a franchise had ever done that. Not to mention, having one writer get all 3 is pretty insane. But I do think that, the people like him. They like that he makes these movies, and I feel like it just, especially in a weak year like this, I definitely have it in at my number 3. I have No Other Choice at 4. I am curious to see how the whole WGA thing pans out with Park Chan-wook. I know that they said that there's a really good article about this on the Rolling Tape, but they said that Park Chan-wook didn't make any rewrites. Everything was done. He just consulted a little bit, and that was enough to piss the WGA off to end up kicking him out, which doesn't really even matter for him because he doesn't make any of his stuff in America. So I think that's why he was like, well, it doesn't really matter too much to me that I'm not in the Writers Guild of America. But I'm interested to see if some people are kind of like, some people take that into account. But I still have it at my number 4. And then my number 5 right now, I do have Frankenstein, followed by Begonia. I wonder if the name recognition, which is, what we've said, I wonder if name recognition plays a factor in the fact that, this is the first time that Yorgos Lanthimos is working with Will Tracy, who's really only known for The Menu. He's not working with his normal writers, whereas Guillermo del Toro is a winner in this category, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in the original screenplay category. And he's been nominated for screenplays, and him doing an adaptation, trying to, even if it veers off, he's trying to keep it faithful to the story. And so I wonder if kind of that Frankenstein mindset is going to carry over. I also have, I have Train Dreams in here as well. I have Springsteen. Maybe Wicked for Good. They get by on continuing the story and finishing. Finally, I don't think this is going to happen, but I do have The Life of Chuck in here just for the fact that it won People's Choice. It was a big Neon push, and then it kind of fell off for whether people like it, don't like it, whatever. But people do like Mike Flanagan, so I have that one in my list of 10 as well.
It's really interesting you bring up the Park Chan-wook like WGA thing, because I did think about that. I just think if we're like having this discussion of like this is going to be a big year, or like that film is going to do well, then like the screenplay has to go along with that, and it is like a very strong screenplay. But like we've seen with the Oscars, like they don't always look at the quality of the actual thing. Sometimes it's like, oh, we want to nominate you, so we will, or we don't want to nominate you, so we won't. You know what I mean? And like we haven't talked about this, but like politics very much does come into play with the Oscars. And like that's why I have One Battle After Another winning, because it does, to me, when I saw Hamnet, and this is not a positive or a negative, but I was like, you could have made this film 20 years ago, or you could make it 20 years from now. It's very timeless. The themes are very timeless. It's constructed, I would say, in a very timeless kind of a way. But like one battle after another seems like it's like right now. And so like I wonder, and no other choice as well is like a very like timely, like it's about a guy who lost his job and he's trying to find a job to support his family. And I feel like everyone, it's like, so I just wonder like how much is that gonna come into play? And as you mentioned, like the Oscars don't have a very good history with Park Chan over like a Lanthimos, over Ryan Johnson. Like, is he just gonna be left out here? I don't know.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah.
Oh no, you continue.
No, and as I mentioned, like I do think that film might be a little bit divisive, but then same thing with Frankenstein. Like I completely agree. Okay, Del Toro has the name recognition; it's a massive property, but having seen the film, like no one is talking about the actual story. Like it's all about the crafts. Jacob Elordi. Does the name recognition in a weak year overcome that? I personally don't think so, but I think the argument is like a very strong one of like maybe there's like 3 films that they could easily check off, and then what do they do with the rest?
Yeah, and again, I think one battle after another. I think the script is so good, and like you said, I think it is so relevant to our time now, which could be a positive, could also in some instances still be a negative. I know that the Academy is not the same Academy as the old Academy, but maybe there's people in there that don't like what the film's trying to say for whatever reason, and so that's kind of just the reason why I went with Hamnet is I'm just curious how it's almost like when Barbie got pushed to adapted screenplay and everyone was like, well, that's original, it's not an adaptation, and once it kind of got pushed to adapted screenplay, its chances of winning were just thrown out the window. I kind of just feel the same way with this, where it's like this feels like a wholly original script that is inadapted because it was inspired by a novel. But are people going to think, well, this shouldn't be in this category, or are they going to say this is the best script in the category regardless of how adapted it is?
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying. I think the counterpoint to that is the Oscars don't really care about category fraud, which we can get to when we get to some of these actors.
Yeah.
And B, like, is the fact that he did more writing actually work in his favor? Because they're like, wow, look at what he did to this thing. Like, does that actually help him? I think.
Yeah. Which is completely fair.
Yeah. Okay, what do you have for original screenplay? This is also like a really fascinating, both screenplay categories to me are super interesting in terms of like what ends up making it in.
I right now, there was a movie a couple years ago that people didn't really love, but it ended up doing really well, and it got Kenneth Branagh his first Oscar. And I just think that Jay Kelly could be similar to Noah Baumbach, what Belfast was to Kenneth Branagh, where he's been nominated so much, he's been around Hollywood as a whole, and with Jay Kelly being such a love letter to actors and film, and I think that there's going to be enough to where they're finally like, you know what, even if it's not the best screenplay of the bunch, I feel like they will, they might throw him a bone and be like, it's time that you were able to get a win here. And so I do have Jay Kelly at number 1 right now, followed by Sentimental Value at my number 2. I have Marty Supreme at my 3. It Was Just an Accident at my 4. like I said earlier, I think, or in the other show, I think it was just an accident is going to show up somewhere else, and I think original screenplay is its best chance because I think this category, in my opinion, is very weak. Not in terms of films or stories, just in terms of what I think the Oscars are going to go for. And then I've got Sinners at my number 5, and I have Is This Thing On at 6. Rental Family still is in here. A House of Dynamite and Weapons.
Okay. Yeah, I have Sinners winning, and I think I actually feel really good about it because I think they like to award like the most original, and I think it is the most original screenplay of the year, just in terms of taking a genre film and like flipping it on its head, and it has like all the history and the music and and I think they want to award Ryan Coogler, and this would be an easy way to do it. It seems kind of like very similar to like a Get Out type situation, honestly, where they're like, hey, we really like this movie. We're not going to give it Best Picture, but like we want to award the achievement. And I just think that this is actually like a very easy place to do that. And so, yeah, I do think Sinners. I mean, Ryan Coogler is a filmmaker that the Oscars have, like, he's been to the party before. They like him. So it just seems like they're not going to let him walk away completely empty-handed. Similar to, like, you know, Promising Young Woman. Like, it just seems like Sinners. Yeah, I feel pretty good about Sinners as of right now. I have Sentimental Value in at my number 2. I feel like that film is just going to be incredibly strong. And Trier, again, it's such a talky movie. There's so much dialogue that that is what that movie is. It's just people talking about their family trauma, and it's you know, so I feel like it's again a pretty safe bet here. I do have Jay Kelly in my 3rd slot. You make a very good argument for Baumbach. I just feel like it's not. I just don't see a world, and neither of us have seen it. I just don't see a world where that movie ends up playing better than Sentimental Value or Sinners. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe they're not ready, or the other contenders are stronger. I have Jafar Panahi in at number 4 for It Was Just an Accident. I agree with you. I think that film is just going to get in somewhere else. He has such a strong narrative. He is so beloved within Hollywood. He's made so many of like people's favorite films type of a thing, and they're going to want to give him a nomination that's just his outside of the international category. And then in my number 5 slot, I have If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Every year, there's sort of like this indie Sundance type movie that gets in, and they are really pushing this film. Like Rose Byrne's been everywhere. It's going to every festival. It's like well reviewed everywhere that it goes. And it's a very, very good screenplay. It's, again, very original. It's balancing a lot of things. It's kind of dealing with a lot of themes at the Oscars, like parenthood and like marriage and all these kinds of things. So I could see that getting in. And then for my 6th slot, again, I have The Testament of Anne Lee. Again, if like this movie comes out, I think it's going to be a major contender all over the place. I just don't know if it's coming out, but the screenplay is phenomenal. I have Marty Supreme, The Secret Agent. I think, again, that's a movie that could show up somewhere else, and I feel like The Secret Agent screenplay is one of those categories where they could easily nominate it. Like I could make an argument for it being in my top 5. I think they love the filmmaker. Again, that film has been everywhere. I mean, it is neon, so like how well are they going to be able to campaign these films in all these different categories? I don't know, but like they're pushing that thing, and people love that movie, and it seems like it could be a good screenplay. And I have Weapons in at number 9. Let me just say, I don't buy the Weapons thing, okay? Like, let me just get it out of the way right now. I don't think it's happening. I'm sorry. I know people love that movie. I know it made money, but like, no. I just don't. I think when you have a horror movie that like cuts across, there's something more elevated about it. And I don't buy that Weapons does that. Like, I don't buy that it even achieves the commentary that it wants to achieve. I think it's just a fun, campy horror movie. And now people are trying to say that it's something else. But I could be wrong, okay? But I'm going on the record right now, September 29th, and saying I don't think Weapons is happening, and I'm sorry to people who love that movie, but it's not an Oscars movie.
Yeah, I mean, I do love that movie. It's been my number one of the year until One Battle, and I think I've seen it 3 times, and I wanna see it 15 more. But I do agree. I mean, I would love if it made its way in, and it's still, in my opinion, might in some of these other categories, but yeah, I just don't think. I think screenplay and some of these others, it's kind of on the outside looking in. but but yeah, I mean, it seems like, like, I think there's good movies here, um but for some reason it just seems like, it's of the ones that I actually could see getting nominated and getting looked at. It just is like, it's one of those things where it's kind of a weaker year. So, that's why I think maybe something can make ways. But yeah, I think the five that I have, I feel pretty set in stone about it. I don't know how much that will actually change.
Yeah, I think like if there is room, it's going to be like an indie, or it's going to be like
Hmm.
maybe like another more international films getting in. I just think like Sinners is sort of taking up all the oxygen of like the more genre-y independent film for this year, or genre-y film, not necessarily independent, but yeah. Okay, now we're getting to, I think, one of the most stacked categories of the Oscars this year in general, which is supporting actress, because you have multiple films with multiple contenders. So Jacob, read me your list.
You said
No
actress, right?
pressure. Supporting actors.
Um, this is one. I agree. There's so many with so many different supporting. Um, I I don't know. Right now I have Gwyneth Paltrow at number one. Um, Sight unseen, just because she's Gwyneth Paltrow and she's playing a movie star. That's really all I have for that. I have Elle Fanning at my number two, and Ariana Grande at my number three. I feel pretty confident about those three at least getting in. I mean, I think all three could still potentially win. I think all three could, end up losing, but I feel pretty confident about those three at least. I I want to, like, just lump it together and be like one of the One Battle girls. Um, I think either Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity, or Regina Hall all deserve a nomination. In my opinion, I liked Regina Hall's of the three the best. Um, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know which one is going to get in. I don't know if maybe they all miss just because there's not enough to go around. So I think right now I'm going to leave all three of them as my, like, 6, 7, 8, just for the sole
Mm,
fact of I want to see who gets that love more than the rest, and then that way I'll know kind of which one. I just don't want to make a choice right now. Um,
yeah.
so I have Emily Blunt in The Smashing Machine. I think people have said she can't get in without The Rock. I think she definitely can. I think she's more beloved actress, of course, like, much more than The Rock, and I think she definitely, especially coming off a nomination, I think she'd get another one. Um, I'm I'm doing it and taking a risk. I have Amy Madigan from Weapons. This might
Mm,
this might be upsetting. I actually do think she was genuinely good, and I think if they get her out in front of people, if you watch the movie, I think if I think if you get her out in front of people, if you get the movie in front of people, I also think, while the movie might not burst into this big thing, it's hard to say she doesn't have these scenes, which matters almost more in this category than anything else. She has these scenes of her sitting by the table and giving a monologue, or when she, changes into character, she does different characters, different makeups. She's scary, she's funny, she's dramatic. There's all this in this performance is all kind of coming together, and so I have her in at my 5 right now, but it's almost as a placeholder. I just want to see which one battle girl kind of starts to take full reins. My assumption is that it'll be Tiana Taylor, but I think Chase Infinity and Regina Hall are both kind of right there. And then I also have Glenn Close for Wake Up Dead Man. And then a surprise that I think could potentially happen is Kate Hudson for Song Sung Blue. Even if the movie doesn't do well, she supposedly is going to be given a good performance, probably be pretty dramatic. She's going to be singing, she's going to be dancing. So, maybe it's something to where she could start to wiggle her way in later this holiday season.
Yeah, I have 10 women listed, and I feel like any of those 10,
I think I have 15. I've got more.
It feels so open. Here's the thing. So again, there's multiple films with multiple women that could get in, and I don't know what to do with that. It's really, and the thing is, and I should mention, even with the supporting actor race in terms of one battle after another, you have people that are like the Sean Penn or the Benicio, and the same thing with the women. Every single person I talk to has a different favorite supporting performance in one battle after another in terms of the women. So what does that do when they're voting? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Jacob, I don't know. Okay, so let me tell you what I have as of right now. I have my winner as, and I'm gonna butcher this last name, but it's the actress from Sentimental Value who plays the little sister. Her name is Inga Ibs Sauter Lilias, I believe. She's not a household name at all. Okay, she's not. I understand that Elle Fanning has but her role is much bigger, and she is just incredible. I feel like it's one of those things where when you watch the movie, you realize she is the standout supporting performance over Elle Fanning, and I just think I do see a world where the international voters push her over the edge for Sentimental Value. Is she a placeholder for right now? Yes, but I actually really see a world where she can win, because I think Sentimental Value is a movie that's going to be very strong with the Academy, and I think she can win. I think she has the material. I think she's been everywhere with the rest of the cast. The Oscars love a discovery, so I think she's a very strong contender, and I think by the end of the season I will learn how to pronounce her name, because I think she will be a household name. So that's who I have as my winner. I have Ariana Grande as my number 2 for Wicked for Good. I feel like she was a very strong number 2 last year, so they could maybe just be like, hey, we can't pick a Sentimental Value performance, and we can't pick a one battle performance, so you kind of go up the middle, if you will. And then I have Teyana Taylor for One Battle After Another. I have Elle Fanning for Sentimental Value. I have Chase Infinity getting in for One Battle After Another, and I'm very tempted to put her in at my number 2, and I probably will, because the Oscars love an ingenue. They love a discovery. They love the sort of Alicia Vikander, where did you come from type of a performance. And she's been everywhere for the film. She's been everywhere with Leo and Benicio. She's kind of the female face over Teyana Taylor.
She's all the marketing the film's gotten.
Right. And so I just see if you watch the film, I'm honestly even tempted to put her in as my winner. I just feel like she feels like the moment to me. And I just feel like she's definitely getting in, and if not, she's a major contender to win. And the performance is there. and she's a star. She's a star, and the Oscars, like I said, love crowning a star. They love discovering somebody. They love anointing somebody, and yeah. But then we have all these sort of outside contenders that I could easily see. So you have, one person you didn't mention, Jennifer Lopez for Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, she didn't get in for Selena. She didn't get in for Hustlers. So you could make the argument that the Oscars don't really like her. But when you have a year that, again, is like wide open, and again, if you're in a situation where you can't choose between co-stars, like if there's no clear, like maybe she just gets enough support to get in there. I don't know. Gwyneth Paltrow for Marty Supreme. They love kind of bringing back their Oscar winners after a while of like, hey, you took a break, kind of similar to like a Renee Zellweger thing, like welcome back to the show. I could easily see her getting in. Emily Blunt in The Smashing Machine is tricky because that movie really did not land for me, really didn't land for a lot of other people. I feel like that's one of those movies where when people see it, they're going to be like, it was so overhyped and ridiculous. Like one of my Eric Anderson from Awards Watch had this brilliant tweet this week where he was like, Emily Blunt in The Smashing Machine, a hair and nails performance. Like that's literally what it is. It's hair and like she doesn't have anything to do. There's no depth. It's like but like she is, for all the things you mentioned, she's Emily Blunt. She's fresh off of a nomination. Like I could see her getting in without The Rock easily. I think she's better, way better in the film than he is. So like I could see them just awarding her. I don't know. I don't know. And then I have Amy Madigan because she is very, I mean, they're running a campaign for her. There's going to be a prequel with her. Like she's sort of one of the iconic images of the year in terms of like film. I mean, all the things you mentioned. And then I have Rebecca Ferguson for A House of Dynamite. Like I don't think, I mean, that seems like an ensemble thing. I don't think it's going to happen, but she's sort of my number 10. But that category is insane. Insane. I have no idea.
We also didn't mention Odessa as a Xeon. I'm gonna butcher her name real quick for you. But someone who looked like, from the Marty Supreme trailer, looked like she has a pretty big role. Of course, no one's seen the movie, so no one knows. But that's another one where it's like, could she be the supporting performance from Marty Supreme? And then also, I mean, I know you've seen it, but Glenn Close still wants to get her win and still wants to be in the contention. And I don't know. I haven't seen it. I have no idea. But from my viewpoint, I mean, in a category that's so spread open, could she wiggle her way in some form or fashion? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think she has enough to do. I also don't know if Wake Up Dead Man, like, if it's going to play as well. And, like, my thing with Wake Up Dead Man is if they couldn't get, like, a Daniel Craig or Ana de Armas, like, if the only thing they've ever been able to get is Screenplay. And I just don't see why this would be any different than that. Like, if they've never been able to break through with any of the other ones in terms of performances, like, Josh O'Connor is the standout performance in this one. So, like, I just think Glenn Close, like, it's too much of an ensemble, and she does. But like, if there isn't somebody, I guess it would just because she's Glenn Close. But like, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, another one, if we're just talking about ensembles, Emily Watson in Hamnet, like she has like one scene, but we've seen plenty of people get in for one scene. So like, if they just go absolutely bonkers for that movie, like I could see her getting in, and they're pushing her. She's been everywhere, so I don't know. I don't know. You mentioned you had. Do you have anyone else we haven't mentioned, sort of on your extended list that you're considering?
I had. I'm not even going to attempt to say the name, but I had Inga from Sentimental Value. She's someone who I wanted to hear what you and what other people have said about it, but I'm definitely moving her up my list a little bit. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else. It's are they gonna go with one of the Sinners girls? I don't think Sinners is gonna get acting, in my opinion. But are they going to go with one of the Sinners girls? Does Fran Drescher give a supporting performance that's worthy of an Oscar in Marty Supreme? There's so much already, but then there's still a couple like unknowns that we don't know where it's going to go or what's going to happen. And yeah, it's definitely it's a fun category every year, but I think this year it's really, really interesting. I think you've got 3 movies right now with very strong cast of supporting women, being Sentimental Value, One Battle After Another, and Marty Supreme. And you've got 3 films that are all up for Best Picture, that are all pretty high for Best Picture, are have these like massive supporting casts. Plus you've got Sinners has Haley Steinfeld, a former nominee,
right? The thing with Haley Steinfeld in Sinners is like she is, to your point, the name and the former nominee, but like she's out acted by every other supporting female in that film. So it kind of comes back to
it could be one of the other ones,
right? But then it comes back to our question of like, when does it actually matter? Because again, like I understand Elle Fanning, she's the name, but Inga, to me, like she has the scenes and she's like kind of the co-lead of the film, like along, so I don't know. Right now, I have 2 Sentimental Value women in there, and then I have 2 One Battle women in there, and I have Ariana Grande in there as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to shake out that way. It's not. I understand it's probably not going to shake out that way, but it just seems like that's kind of the safe place to go for right now. But I just gotta say, Inga, I need to put my weight behind her because I feel like she just deserves to be in the conversation so much. But I don't know. Which takes us to Best Supporting Actor. I should mention, Jacob, I have Paul Mescal right now in lead because having seen the film, I think he should be in lead in terms of screen time, in terms of the way the story is structured. He's like, have you read the book?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, I have not yet, but I want to before I see it.
His role is like very expanded, just based on, so I have him in lead. If they decide to push him in supporting, like he's gonna be in the either in my opinion, either category that they put him in, he's gonna get nominated. Basically, I just think he should be in lead. I think, interestingly, I think he's kind of in the same position regardless of what category he's put into, which is like maybe number 2. But for supporting, I have Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value. I have Sean Penn. I have Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein. I have Jeremy Strong. And right now I have Adam Sandler for Jay Kelly. And then I'll just read my 6 through 10 real quick. I have Miles Catton, is that how you say it? From Sinners, Benicio del Toro, Josh O'Connor from Wake Up Dead Man, Michael Shannon from Nuremberg, and Andrew Scott for Blue Moon. See, this is really tricky because I think like Sentimental Values, Stellan Skarsgård, like I definitely see a world where he wins. He's like a veteran. He's been everywhere, he's phenomenal in the film. Like the material is absolutely there. The problem is I've had multiple years, Jacob, where I've underestimated somebody winning again because my argument is they've won before. It happened to me with Renee Zellweger. It happened to me with Frances McDormand. It happened to me with Emma Stone. So at this point, I'm like, do I just put Sean Penn in my number 1 and just walk away? I don't know. I think Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein is phenomenal. If we're going straight based on performance alone, I actually think he deserves to win. I think he's so good. I think he's been building up one heck of a resume. I think he is the reason to see that film in general. Like he is the movie. I think he's sort of reinvented what that kind of a performance can be in terms of like the hair and makeup heavy type of a performance. Then like Jeremy Strong. Listen, I feel good about Jeremy Strong, even if the movie doesn't do well, because he got in for the Trump movie. Like, I just think people love him. Like, he's just having. I think all these Succession actors, like, they're just gonna get their Oscar one right after another, and so like, I feel pretty darn good about Jeremy Strong. The fifth slot, like, I don't feel. I think I just put in Adam Sandler because again, he seems like he's been building up to this kind of a thing. Like maybe this is his moment, but. I mean, I could make a really strong argument for Benicio del Toro. I actually kind of like Del Toro more than I like Sean Penn personally. Like, I found the performance more interesting. Like he would be my personal supporting male actor from that film, but I don't know. And then Miles Catton, I love that. Oh God, I love that performance so much. I love that performance so much, and I think he deserves to be in the 5. But I think he's just gonna get pushed out.
Yeah, I have for mine, I've got Adam Sandler right now as my number one. It's like you said, he's been building to this. He's been doing his dramatic work. He did Uncut Gems, and everyone said, like, unanimous across the voters, they said we need to see him do it again. And he's done his Happy Gilmores, he's done his Hubie Halloweens, he's done stuff like that, but then he comes back to something like this, which is so far out of his wheelhouse. With what's being said is a much softer performance. Netflix is really pushing him just as much, if not more than George Clooney. Plus, it's a true supporting performance. It seems like this is George Clooney's movie, and Adam Sandler's supporting him along the way. The story is kind of about their relationship. I think the people like him is the thing. He got the SAG nomination for Hustle. He got he's been Golden Globe nominated. I think they want to award him. And I could see him winning SAG for this in a movie that Jay Kelly might do well at. I could see him, taking home, a couple awards here or there, and then, in the end, taking it as well. So, I don't know, but right now I have Paul Mescal as my number 2 here in Hamnet. I know that in the book, Shakespeare is basically a cameo, and that in the movie he's given like not just a real role, but like you said, almost a leading role. I've heard that they want him to go supporting because they really want to push that it's Jesse's movie. So I don't know. I'm keeping him in supporting now until they say differently, just because I think that's where they want him to end up.
Yeah,
But
I think like sorry to cut you off. I think if he goes like I think in terms of an awards play, I think supporting is the smarter like shot, because I think if he goes supporting, he can actually win. Like I really do see him like winning more in supporting than he would in lead for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then I've got Stellan Skarsgård at 3. I think Sentimental Value will be really well. I think if Sentimental Value was the Best Picture frontrunner that some people thought 2 months ago, I could see him winning. But I think this movie is just going to be. I don't even see Renee winning, which I know we'll get to. So I have Stellan Skarsgård getting his first nomination, but not getting the win. I have Sean Penn because he is like the loud, bombastic performance of One Battle After Another. I agree. I also think there was something much more interesting with Benicio del Toro. But with Sean Penn, it's, Sean Penn has burned me many times. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's done it again. And then for my 5th, I have Josh O'Connor. As of right now, I don't think they're going to go with 2 people for 1 battle, and I have Benicio as my 6. So I have Josh O'Connor as of right now as my number 5. I don't think Jeremy Strong's getting in just because it's like I said, I don't think Springsteen is going to develop into being what we thought it was going to be. I have Jonathan Bailey in at number 8 for Wicked. He got the SAG nomination the first time around. I know this time around is going to be a little bit more for his character and the kind of transformation that his character has to go through. And so, I think that could all play together. Of the Sinners guys, I actually have Delroy Lindo. I wonder if there's a chance that there's some Defy Bloods comeback, and it's just how it seems to work. But it seems like supporting actress, they like their younger women, and supporting actor, they like the older guys over the younger guys. And so that's why I think with Miles Canton, I feel like they're going to be like, well, he's got more chances down the road. Delroy Lindo should have been nominated, should have won, and didn't even get the nomination. And so I wonder if if Sinners does better than what I think. I wonder if he could be along for the ride. And then I also have Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein in my 10. I wonder if Frankenstein is just going to be a Nightmare Alley where it's a below the line player and picks up wins and nominations below the line and gets a Best Picture nomination alongside, or if it's going to be something to where it does get an acting nomination here. And I've heard nothing but great things about Jacob Elordi. So, and like you said, he's been building a resume that I think is really strong for something like this.
Yeah, I think having Jonathan Bailey and Delroy Lindo, like I don't buy either of those as like a top 5 contender, but I think having them sort of in your broader bubble is really smart. And you make a good case for Adam Sandler. I just wonder if Adam Sandler is kind of run into like maybe a little bit of like the Jennifer Lopez or like the Jim Carrey of it all, where like the weaker films will bring you or like kind of like the Eddie Murphy thing where like he never ended up winning because there was like the Norbit. I just wonder, like, is the Happy Gilmore 2 gonna shoot him in the foot where they're like, we don't see you as like an Oscar caliber kind of a guy?
Which I would agree with, but even last year they brought him to the Oscars and they had him wear his his goofy clothes, and they had him do a whole skit and everybody cheered for him, and he seems like just so, because that's the thing, like with Jim Carrey, and I love Jim Carrey, I think he should have at least 2 nominations under his belt, maybe more. But like Tommy Lee Jones said that he wanted to fist fight Jim Carrey on set. And with some of these other actors that have gone through stuff like this, it's like no one has ever said a bad thing about Adam Sandler. I think what George Clooney said about Adam Sandler, where he told, he was telling everyone on set, he was like, don't call him Sandman. Like, he's such a beautiful, respected, like strong actor, and he needs to be treated as such. I feel like that's going to like that's the kind of sentiment that's going towards Adam Sandler that I don't think some of these other people got, just because of, maybe because of how they act or what they do or for whatever reason. But I feel like Adam Sandler is so beloved in a sense that I feel like people are wanting to award him. And I think with Uncut Gems, they were like, this is such a good performance, but it's, is this a one-time thing? Because he did it in the past. He did it with Punch on Glove and then went right back to doing his other stuff. And so it's like, I think he's been with Meyerowitz Stories. People teased that he could be Oscar nominated. With Uncut Gems, it seemed like people were like, this is a tour de force performance, but is it going to last? And now, Todd Field wants to work with him. He's doing this movie. He's doing another Safdie movie, hopefully. And so it's like, there's all of these kind of pulling together that I think he's hitting like a second wind in Hollywood, where he's letting, he's letting his friends do his friends' movies, and he's doing, Happy Gilmore 2s and stuff to appease Netflix. but then he's going to go off and do these more auteur-driven, dramatic pieces, and I think that people are going to start seeing that. I think he's going to end up winning? Probably not, but I feel very confident in him getting a nomination just for all of that. That's more of why I have him at my number one, is because he's the one who I feel really the most confident about at least getting a nomination. I feel like it's gonna, like it will happen.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the thing with Jay Kelly, is I think it is going to get quite a few nominations. I just don't know in terms of wins, but I mean, like, Noah Baumbach, like, he can get his actors nominated, but he just, sometimes his movies get through and sometimes they don't, and I feel like the response to Jay Kelly is a little bit, like, lukewarm, but maybe the Hollywood of it all is enough to kind of get it to carry through. Like I said, it's a big question mark. I'm really not sure what to make of it, but Best Actress is another field that seems a little bit open. If you want to go through your nominees there.
Yeah, I have Jessie Buckley at 1, and I don't know. I know you've seen the movie, so you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I've had her at my 1 for like months now. I don't think I'm going to be changing it, and I think this is her win through and through. I have Renee Rienz at 2 for Sentimental Value, Emma Stone at 3 for Begonia, Rose Byrne at 4 for If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, and at 5 I have Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, followed by Amanda Seyfried for Testament of Anne Lee, Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love, Sydney Sweeney I still have in my top 10 just because I don't know who else to put, especially after Julia Roberts fell off. Rebecca Ferguson, is she going to be lead or supporting? Tessa Thompson, is Hedda going to do anything? So that's kind of my list as of right now, but that's my 5 that I have.
Yeah, I also have Jessie Buckley at number 1. I think she's a previous nominee. It makes sense that she would come back and win here. She is phenomenal. It's not just like, oh, it's her time to win. She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. The performance is so good. Even if Hamnet doesn't win any other Oscars, like, I think she's gonna win. The only person, and I have her at my number 2, the only person that I think could take her down is Amanda Seyfried. And as I mentioned, The Testament of Anne Lee still doesn't have an official distributor, so I don't even know if it's coming out. But I think Amanda Seyfried does have the material. Even if that film were to come out, the Hamnet is going to be stronger. And so, like, I just think Jessie Buckley, oh man, if she wins, like, it's going to be like an all-time great winner in my humble opinion. She's that good. I do have Renat as my number 3. Like, she was on the bubble for the worst person in the world. You could argue she was, like, right there. Like, she also just seems like somebody that's ready to be anointed for a nomination. And then I have Cynthia Erivo coming back. She's just beloved. Even if that movie, like, kind of misses, I just feel like she's safe to me. And then I have Emma Stone for Begonia because she's Emma Stone. I'm really tempted to put in, Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs I'd Kick You. She's, as I mentioned, she's going everywhere. She's so good. Like, the performance is absolutely there. I just feel like actually Best Actress is very competitive. Like, yeah, it's interesting. We've narrowed it down to maybe like eight contenders, but then you could make an argument equally, I think, for all 8 of these women, if that makes sense. And then I have Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love. Haven't seen it, but I just feel like I could see a world where she comes back. I have Cate Blanchett for Father, Mother, Sister, Brother because she's Cate Blanchett and the movie seems like well liked enough to where she could possibly kind of sneak in and get like a 5th slot. I don't think Sydney Sweeney and Christie is happening at all, but I think like she could show up. Golden Globes potentially. Like she seems basically like the Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl of this year, where like she could show up somewhere. Doesn't mean she's gonna show up at the Oscars, but like I could see some group just nominating her. And then
there's gonna be some critic group that does it and tries to make a statement and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And then I left Julia Roberts in there just because I don't know where else to go. But yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it as well.
Yeah, I think Jessie Buckley is so far out front, and I guess and Amanda Seyfried, like she's such a huge question mark. But to me, like Jessie Buckley and Renat are pretty locked in. I would argue Emma Stone, like even if that film doesn't hit, like she's Emma Stone, and she's sort of the actress of her generation, so she's kind of can Meryl Streep her way in there, even when she has like a weaker film, I think. But yeah, I would say like that fifth slot's the only one that's kind of open at this point.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, like I have right now, I've got Cynthia Erivo for Wicked for Good, which I feel like that she's in my 5. It's like you said, I have Amanda Seyfried at 6 right now just because of the unknowns about the film in general, like when is it going to release, who's going to release it, stuff like that. But I still think that maybe she could take Cynthia's spot. Maybe, that's my one thing with both of the Wicked girls is it's like, are they going to be nominated again? Because we saw even with other films that did stuff like this, Lord of the Rings, they nominated one actor and then they didn't go back to nominating any of the actors. So are they going to nominate the 2 actresses again, or are they going to say, well, we gave you your love? I think, and of the 2, I think that why can I not think of her name right now?
Ariana.
She's like Ariana Grande. I think she's probably a little bit safer. But that's just because I also think Cynthia Erivo was probably that 4 or 5 spot last year as well. Whereas, like you said, Ariana Grande was more in that 2 spot. So, is Amanda Seyfried going to overtake her or something like that?
Yeah, I'm very tempted to like put Amanda in my number 6 and move Rose up. I just think like if The Testament of Anne Lee like comes out, even if it like she's just getting in, like I feel that confident about it. But then like also, and the thing with Jennifer Lawrence in Die My Love, because she's gotten incredible reviews, but I just don't trust Mubi to be able to carry her along. Like I think last year with Demi Moore, that was such a moment type of a movie. Like I just don't think Die My Love feels so small. It doesn't feel like it's gonna capture the zeitgeist. Or else I'd be very tempted to go with Jennifer Lawrence. But I think like so many other people have fallen off that unless we get some random kind of out of nowhere contender, I feel like the list is pretty locked. I don't know.
Yeah. I have no idea either.
Yeah, I mean Jessie Buckley, like I'm scared to be like it's too. I just feel like she's so safe at a number 1 that it feels like everyone else is just fighting to be nominated at this point.
Yeah, this is the only category that I feel isn't gonna be competitive. I've thought for a long time that this was Jessie Buckley's and hers alone, and I'm glad to have been proven right because I think of all of the categories, I think there's a lot of them that will be competitive. I think this one's going to be kind of just hers along the ride.
Yeah, I think it'll be competitive for a nomination, but not competitive in terms of the win. Similarly, I feel the same way about Best Actor. I think it's going to be, I don't even know. So tell me, because basically I feel good about who might get nominated, but I have no idea who to put in my number 1. So tell me who your rankings are.
Right now, I have Leo at 1. I think he's given such great performances, and he's gotten in. I think he's in, and I think he's gotten in for so many roles like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just because he is Leo and he's, giving a good Leo performance. But I think One Battle After Another, I think he's really doing something pretty special, to where some people have said it's one of their favorite performances of his ever. And I've got him at my number one. My number two, I have Timothy Chalamet in Marty Supreme. I've got George Clooney as my three. I have Jesse Plemons in Begonia as my four. And then my five, I have Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent, followed by Jeremy Allen White for Springsteen. Again, unless Springsteen really starts to pick up, it seems like it's, falling further off a cliff than some of these other movies. And then I've got Dwayne Johnson for The Smashing Machine, Brendan Fraser for Rental Family, Lee Byung-hun for No Other Choice, and then Michael B. Jordan for Sinners at my 10.
Okay. I think I'm gonna put Leo in as my number one, just because I think similar to a Frances McDormand, like if this is the best picture frontrunner, it makes sense that he would be going along for the ride. Leonardo DiCaprio is absolutely the kind of actor that should have multiple Oscars. He should have multiple Oscars already, quite frankly. So I think I'm going to put him in as my number one. I have Paul Mescal in it at number two, just because I have him in for lead right now. But if he goes supporting, he'll be my number two there anyway. And then I do think Michael B. Jordan is going to get in. I think he is like a movie star. He's charming. He's going to be everywhere campaigning the movie. He has enough cachet to be an Oscar nominee. He plays a dual role. It's Beatty. If Sinners is sort of a top three best picture contender, which is where I think it is, I think he just makes sense that he would go along for the ride. And then I have Timothy Chalamet in Marty Supreme, because I think we don't know, but I think the role is there. I think he is popular enough. And then I do have Jeremy Allen White in for the Springsteen movie. I hear your arguments. I just think even if we want to say it's going to be similar to a Rocket Man type of a situation, I think Jeremy Allen White, like, people love the Bear. They love when their movie stars or when their TV stars do movies. I mean, look at Kieran Culkin, right? Like it just seems like they even want to annoy him further. And I just think that I think he can get in. I actually feel like he's relatively safe ish as of right now. But then I'm struggling, because then you have Jesse Plemons, who he just seems like he could easily get in, and then Wagner Moura, again, like, he's campaigning, he's everywhere. I think these international films, as I keep saying over and over again, they're going to do really well. So, like, does he come in? Right now, I don't have Jay Kelly in. That's probably a mistake because he's George Clooney. So, like, maybe if Mescal moves, George Clooney is going to take that spot. I don't have Dwayne. Yeah, I'm doing Dwayne Johnson at like number 8-ish, 7, 8 right now. I don't think that's happening. I don't even think the performance is that good. I don't like that movie, so I'm not gonna predict it. I'm sorry. Until I start getting being proven wrong, until they actually start nominating that movie, I'm not gonna predict it for anything, because I just don't think. I think people are gonna see it and they're gonna be like, "What is that?" And then I have Daniel Day-Lewis at number 10. The reviews so far have been pretty middling for the movie, but his performance is good. I mean, they're great, phenomenal reviews for him, right? Which he always gets. So I feel like he might be in the mix for things. Is that going to be enough for him to be a top 5 contender? I don't know. But it's Daniel Day-Lewis, so you can never count him out completely. So that's my 10.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's pretty competitive for that nomination, but I do think I think Leo's pretty safe. I still think Timothy's pretty safe, unless Marty Supreme absolutely flops. And then I still think Jay Kelly's going to be a top 5 Best Picture contender. And I have to have George Clooney in. But other than that, I mean, I have Jesse Plemons in just because I think he is well loved. He's a former
Yeah.
nominee, and he seems to be doing a really weird performance,
Yeah.
which I think could be fun. But I don't know. I don't
My
know.
thing with
There's
Michael
definitely
B.
a lot.
Yeah, my thing with Michael B. Jordan is I don't understand. I feel like he's being underestimated. Maybe I'm just completely wrong, but I don't really understand why. Like yeah, I just feel like he's being underestimated. I feel like he has all of the things that you would need to get at least the nomination. Like, okay, maybe the win is off the
I
table, but yeah,
I just for me, I think it's that Sinners is. I think it's as much an action type of movie as it is a period drama, and I wonder if and I love the movie. It's still my number 3 movie of the year now. It's I just wonder how much they'll look at that and think that the performances are the standouts. When, in my opinion, it's the crafts far overtake any of the performance. It feels similar um to like Tom Cruise and Top Gun, where it's like Tom Cruise gave a great performance. He was towing the line between, is he going to get in, is he not going to get in, and then Paul Mescal ended up getting in for After Sun over him, and that's where I think a Wagner Mora could come out for The Secret Agent and kind of take that last spot nomination that might be going between him and someone else.
yeah. I don't know. I just think Michael B. Jordan, he has enough of a buildup to be able to kind of have his due. I mean, even like he was in Black Panther. He's been in these films that have been on their radar, so it just makes sense that he would be in there. And it is such a showy role. Yeah, I'm moving him down my rankings. Like I'm not as confident about him as I used to be, but I still think as of right now, like Sinners is strong enough to push him through. I don't know what to do about Wagner Mora. Oh, I'm so tempted to put him in, but I don't know who I would take out unless I just put Mescal in supporting and keep him there until I'm told otherwise. But then I have more room for this category. I don't
That's
know.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, yeah.
I'm going to force them
All
to
right.
tell me.
Yeah. Tell me about your best director lineup because I think maybe there's like 3 locks and 2 open slots, or maybe 4 locks and 1
Yeah.
open slot. What are you thinking right now, Jacob?
Yeah. So I think this is going to be one where I think I'm really going to upset a lot of people, because I think one of the locks that maybe you have and maybe other people have. I don't think Ryan Coogler's getting in. Um, I I think that I know I think he's going to be the DGA nom that doesn't pan out at the Oscars. The thing is, we don't know how this movie is going to play internationally. And I think with the director's branch being so strong internationally, um, is Sinners going to play well at BAFTA? Is it going to do well at some of these kind of more internationally focused award shows? That I don't know. And he's never been nominated. He so he doesn't have that going for him either. And I think he's going to get, a DGA nomination, similar to, a Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun, and probably end up missing out for someone like Park Chan-wook or
Mm.
Jafar Panahi or someone like that. That's currently what I have. What I have right now is I have Hamnet winning adapted screenplay. I have Paul Thomas Anderson winning director. I think
Mhm.
I think the direction of the movie is incredibly strong. I think every single scene, you can tell that there's like so much thought that goes into it. Um, and while I do think the screenplay is really good, I think the direction is even better. And so that's why I think that Hamnet's going to take screenplay, and Paul Thomas Anderson is going to take um,
Director.
director. Um, but I've got Chloe Zhao number 2. I have Joachim Trier at my number 3 for sentimental value. That to me is the big 3, the locks, the guarantees. Those 3 I think are in. My number 4, I think I'm taking a bit of a risk on this one, but I'm going Jay Kelly or Noah Baumbach from Jay Kelly. From what people have said is that it's continuing this line of Noah Baumbach being a much more showy director. And apparently there's a very, very well placed long take at the beginning that kicks the film off. You know, you're directing, people directing, and it's a big show starter. And then apparently the big emotional finale has been hitting everybody, and that's a big show ender. So I've got Noah Baumbach as my number 4, with Park Chan-wook breaking through as my number 5. Behind him, I've got Ryan Coogler for Sinners, my number 6. Jafar Panahi as for It Was Just an Accident as my number 7. Yorgos Lanthimos for Begonia. Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein. Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme. I mean, you can go on and on with director. This is going to be a tough category. Scott Cooper for Springsteen. Benny Safdie for The Smashing Machine, who, you know, just won the Venice Best Director, so you have to at least consider him. You got Catherine Bigelow, a former winner. It's gonna be a really, really difficult year for director, because I think there's probably about 15 people who could get the nomination, but I think there's 13 people that are fighting for 2 spots, because I think those top 3, that's set in stone for me. So that's kind of what I've got at the moment.
I'm really glad you brought up this sort of international aspect with Sinners, because that's always been my big concern with that film, is like, how does it play with an international crowd? I actually, like, when I was traveling internationally over the summer, like, every time I watched Sinners with like more non-American audience, and there was like a lot of things that they were confused about, that they didn't understand, that they didn't pick up on. There's a lot of like Southern or like like a lot of the racial dynamics, like I have been, I don't think international audiences, maybe it's not that they don't get it. I just don't think maybe they see the depth that we do, right? Necessarily. And like even One Battle After Another has outgrossed Sinners internationally in one weekend. And so like I do think that that's going to be something that film really has to overcome. So like, I think that's a big sort of like, I don't know, issue, or like something that people need to take more into consideration. I think with Sinners, it is very American, whereas like One Battle After Another has more international appeal of the two, for sure. So I think Paul Thomas Anderson, like, even if the film doesn't end up winning picture, I think he's pretty safe in director. I just feel like he's so sort of long overdue. This is such a showy directorial effort. Like, he's clearly making an effort to talk about how much this film means to him. It's so deeply personal for him. Like, it feels to me like maybe the dominoes have aligned finally for Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, after 11 nominations, like, yeah, I feel pretty darn good about Paul Thomas Anderson. But I actually do have Ryan Coogler. Right now, he's my number 2. I just think he is also so overdue. And before Paul Thomas Anderson was talking about sort of film and film preservation, Ryan Coogler was the one that was saying, watch Sinners on this format. Like, it's such a, again, a showy directorial effort. You know, he didn't get in for Fruitvale. He didn't get in for Black Panther when Black Panther got in for picture. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm just going to say it. The Oscars are image conscious, and it's not going to look good if one of their most promising young directors doesn't get in for it. You know, like it just is gonna look bad. It's gonna be like Greta Gerwig not getting in for Barbie all over again. It's gonna they're gonna. I feel like they're gonna push him through, and I feel like, you know, he's like beloved with his colleagues, like in the DGA. There's just gonna be enough support for him. I have Chloe Zhao in for Hamnet. I think she's pretty safe. I think if she hadn't won, she'd be like the number one, even over Paul Thomas Anderson. But because she already has her prize, like, I think. And then I have Trier for Sentimental Value. He feels safe for all the like, also overdue, also with a strong contender, also has the international contingent behind him. Like, I feel pretty good about that. Number 5, I don't know where to go because I've had Panahi in for the longest time, but I think I'm gonna take him out. Maybe for Wook, but like, for all the reasons we mentioned, the Oscars don't really like him. So like, is No Other Choice really gonna be the film to push him across? I'm not entirely sure. And then like Frank Del Toro, they love Del Toro. I don't think Frankenstein like is going to be strong enough. I mean, you made a very good case for Noah Baumbach. Like, he may end up being my number 5 for now. Yeah, I mean, all the people you mentioned, like, I also have in the mix. I think Safdie could come in, like, if Marty Supreme, like, I'm predicting Marty Supreme all over the place, so maybe it's like kind of naive to not have Josh Safdie in there. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult because it's like, I really think it's going to come down to like which movies are the top 4 to 6 in Best Picture, and then which one of those has like the showiest or best direction. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. And then I put Park Chan-wook in there just because, I feel like there's always that first time director, and I know Joachim Trier kind of fits that role as well, but it feels like a situation where he's kind of just a lock and there's no surprise, and that's where I feel like Park Chan-wook might be kind of that surprise international nomination.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be 2 international directors getting in this year. I just am not entirely sure. I mean, I do think like Panahi, I guess maybe it is more of a screenplay thing than a direction thing, but he also just has such a strong narrative. And then Noah Baumbach, like, I mean, you make a really good case for him in director, but Jay Kelly always seemed like a screenplay thing to me. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I buy him necessarily as like a strong directorial. He's in my sort of broader 10, but it'll be interesting. I think Jay Kelly, yeah, like, if that movie really does overperform, like, he could get in just because they do like him. But yeah, good stuff. Okay, are you ready to do the big one, the final category, Best Picture?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Jacob Thorneberry, my beloved guest, what are your 10 films that you are currently predicting to be nominated for and to win Best Picture at the 98th Academy Awards, taking place on March 15th, 2026?
I've got at number 1, I think this is going to be a big race between my 1 and 2, and I've been teasing it this whole time. As of right now, I've got One Battle After Another. It's my number 1. My number 2 is Hamnet. I think both of those movies have so much going for it, and also so much going against it. You know, with Hamnet, you've got going for it that it's very emotional. It's a story about grief, about love, about art. it's well acted. It's got all of these factors going for it. What's going against it is, you know, while Shakespeare in Love might not have been the same thing that this is, it's like, well, didn't we just award a Shakespeare-esque film, 20 years ago? On the other hand, with One Battle After Another, it's timely. Again, it's well acted. It's well put together. Is it too timely? Is that going to turn people away from it because they don't want to see stuff that's happening around them, stuff like that? And so I do think it's going to come down to one of those two, because I think those are probably going to be the best movies of the year. But right now I've got One Battle After Another over Hamnet. So I've got One Battle After Another, Hamnet at 2, sentimental value at 3. I've got Jay Kelly at 4. Netflix has a huge slate, and they are pushing Jay Kelly pretty hard, and I think they're going to continue to push Jay Kelly harder than almost all of their other films. I've got Sinners at number 5. I have Marty Supreme at 6. I've got Frankenstein at 7. I have Begonia at 8. No Other Choice at 9, and then finally I have Wicked for Good at 10. Some other ones I have It Was Just an Accident at 11. Avatar Fire and Ash at 12. Springsteen at 13. The Testament of Ann Lee at 14. Smashing Machine at 15. And I think that's kind of the big ones that I have. Oh, and A House of Dynamite as well. I have in my list as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that Hamnet and One Battle After Another are the big two. I mean, Hamnet to me, like the Shakespeare, because it's sort of Shakespeare before he became Shakespeare. So I don't think that's really plays into it as much as maybe people are thinking. I think the thing that worries me about Hamnet, and the reason why like I'm not predicting it to win as many things, is because I'm afraid that people are going to see it and go, "Oh, that's it." Like it's beautiful. I love it. It was my favorite film of TIFF. Like it's one of my favorite films. It's probably second favorite film of the year behind One Battle After Another. It's gorgeous. I worry that it's like a little bit too like maybe sentimental or like emotional, or maybe it doesn't have the amount of broad appeal. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's about art, and it's about using art to work through your grief, and I think that is very universal. I just worry that some people are going to be let down by it a little bit. I think it's just maybe like I worry that it's like going to be overhyped, if that makes sense. Where, as I mentioned, like they were really smart to just drop One Battle After Another and not build up the hype. But I worry that Hamnet might have that issue. But then similarly, like maybe One Battle After Another is going to have that issue because critics are hailing it the best film of the century so far. So maybe by the time you get to November, December, people are going to be like, can we stop? Like, I don't know. So I do think those are the top two contenders. I just think One Battle After Another just seems stronger of the two. But like I love both. I think both would be very deserving Best Picture winners. As of right now, I don't see a film that could be strong enough to overtake either one of those films, both in terms of like crafts or what the film is able to accomplish like emotionally. I think those are like head and shoulders above the rest. I do have Sinners at number 3. It just feels like it's too big to ignore. I think also the Oscars are paying attention to what people have seen, and the fact that like people have seen Sinners 4 or 5 times in theaters. There's going to be a re-release. Like I think they know that, and I think like they want Sinners is like an opportunity to be like, hey, let's award this thing that's super popular and this thing that like is well made. And so I think Sinners has both of those things going for it. And in a field of 10, like it feels very safe and very much like a top contender. Then I have Sentimental Value, Marty Supreme, Wicked for Good, Jay Kelly, Frankenstein. I feel very safe about those. I have Begonia at number 9. number 10, I have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. As you mentioned, like, this film could be nothing. I just feel like it's such a seemingly like a dad movie, and they already have Springsteen like giving performances at the New York premiere. Like, if they're really pushing it, it just makes sense that, like, if this was like back when it was like, the sliding scale of like it could be 8 or 10, like, sure, it wouldn't have gotten in. But like, we have 10 slots. It just seems like enough people are going to be like in love with it enough to push it over. It was just an accident in for a longest time. I think that's faded as of right now. I think No Other Choice. I totally get that argument. I just wonder if it's like a little bit too divisive, although it's probably foolish to predict it for director and not predict it for picture. But I think I'm good with this 10. Again, Begonia could be too weird. Like, maybe something else is a little bit safer. But yeah, I would say like that 8 of Frankenstein, J. Kelly, Wicked, Marty Supreme, Sentiment of Value, Sinners. I mean, Marty Supreme, I guess, could also just completely fall off. But that 8 seemed pretty safe, with maybe like 5, 6 other films sort of fighting for those last 2 slots.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about Wicked too. Is I've got Wicked in at my 10, and that's not that I think it's going to miss out on a nomination. I just don't feel as confident about it as I do some of the other ones. I have it nominated for a couple here and there, and in winning one, but it's just there's just something about the first Wicked was such a lightning in the bottle type of thing in terms of Oscar nominations. I mean, it came out of literally nowhere and became like almost a Best Picture frontrunner overnight. I just don't see this one doing that same thing and having that same grand appeal that the first one had. So I'm definitely curious about that, but yeah, I feel like you said, I feel like for me, I've got 7 to 8 films that I feel pretty confident about, and then 2 to 3 where I am really wondering, is something gonna overtake this? Are they just gonna go and give Avatar a Best Picture nomination because it's James Cameron and it's Avatar? It's there's some of these other films that just that are right on that cusp that could either make it or completely miss.
Yeah, I think like the Way of Water year was significantly weaker than this year. I just don't see that, like, unless it's like maybe just really, really good. Because even the Way of Water, like, people were like, oh, it's more of a technical achievement. So I just don't see them going back to Avatar for picture. But I do have like a very strong feeling that there's going to be 2 international films in for picture this year. I just don't know what the second one would be, because I feel like all the rest of them, like, maybe they have something working against it. So I don't know. I guess, yeah, maybe No Other Choice feels a little bit safer-ish, but I'm not really I'm not ready yet to pick a second one. But I do think, like, with how international the Academy is trending, like, we're going to see 2 get in, and we're going to see 2 international directors get in. But I don't know if we have a second contender that's like fully the number 2 contender just yet.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Jacob, we've been here for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Do you have any closing thoughts, any lingering questions, last minute things you wanted to mention before I let you go?
No, not that I can think of. I'm happy to sit down here and talk through this all and really kind of see where your head's at as well. I definitely think it's going to be an interesting year coming forward, and I'm excited to kind of see where all goes and come back to this later and see how right or wrong we are.
Yeah, I think the big question is, like, is it just going to be one battle after another sweep, or are one of these sort of more international minded films going to have enough power to kind of stop it in its tracks a little bit? that I think that's going to be the big like question of like how political are the Oscars going to want to go. That's kind of the big thing that I'm looking at is like, are we looking at a sweeper year? I think we are, but we shall see how big of a momentum, because it's also so early. Like, sure, you have an Oppenheimer, everything, like those kinds of films that come out really early and just steam through. But if the hype for some reason sort of catches up to it, I don't think it will, but we'll see. We'll see if something has enough steam left to give Paul Thomas Anderson a run for his money. But Jacob, tell the people where they can find you, where they can follow you.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at jtberry97, and you can find my work here at InSessionFilm.com.
Yes, and I'm at Shadan Larkey everywhere. Please make sure to follow In Session Film, rate and review the podcast, follow the podcast, spread the word. Let us know what you think of our predictions. Where have we gone right? What are we underestimating, overestimating? Where have we just been complete idiots? And we'll be back in your feed once a week with more updates. And thank you so much for listening. If you made it an hour and 10-ish minutes into this thing, I'm so grateful, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Of course. Thanks for having me.